What if death were not an end, but a doorway to a realm where consciousness transforms and renewal awaits? In exploring the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we uncover a profound guide that challenges our traditional perception of death, life, and rebirth. This enigmatic text invites us to view death not as a final farewell, but as an intricate transition, a moment when the soul steps into a realm of lucid, reawakening light and possibilities. Rooted in the ancient traditions of Tibetan Buddhism and rich in symbolic guidance, the Tibetan Book of the Dead has intrigued spiritual seekers for centuries. It offers a roadmap for navigating the intermediate state between life and the next beginning, urging us to reflect on the cyclical nature of existence. Today, we embark on a deep exploration into these timeless teachings, setting the stage to understand how every ending is but the precursor to a transformative. Imagine standing on a bridge at dawn, one foot on the solid land of familiarity, and the other stepping into the unknown mist that gently blankets a new realm. In Tibetan Buddhism, this in-between space is captured by the term Bardo, a word that means intermediate state or transitional phase. The Bardos remind us that death is not an abrupt end, but a profound passage from one form of existence to another. It is a transformative journey where the soul leaves behind the confines of the familiar, venturing into a realm where pure consciousness and the essence of mind are laid bare. At its core, the Bardo concept teaches that our lives consist of constant transitions. While we often recognize moments of change in our daily lives, as we wake from sleep, make decisions, or experience shifts in mood, the Bardos are the most dramatic and decisive of these transitions. Nowhere is this more significant than at death. Instead of viewing death as the final curtain call, the Tibetan tradition sees it as a delicate and powerful doorway. As the physical body dissolves, our previously cluttered and conditioned perceptions fall away, revealing the unadorned nature of our consciousness. Immediately after death, the soul is said to encounter what is often described as the clear light. This phase, sometimes referred to as the Chikai Bardo or the Bardo of dying, begins with the gradual withdrawal of the senses and physical awareness. As the body's elements, earth, water, fire, air, dissipate one by one, so too does the ego, the very sense of a fixed identity. In this vulnerable moment of release, there emerges a brilliant luminosity, an unconditioned, radiant clarity. This clear light is not merely light in a literal sense. It symbolizes the pristine, intrinsic awareness that constitutes the very essence of our being. For those who have cultivated deep meditative insight, recognition of this luminous state can lead to immediate liberation. In such cases, the soul perceives that this glowing clarity is not an external phenomenon, but a reflection of its own nature, the innate purity and potential for enlightenment. However, for many, the sudden confrontation with the clear light is overwhelming. Over the span of mere seconds, if unrecognized, this opportunity for awakening may slip by, leaving the soul vulnerable to subsequent stages of the Bardo process. Once the initial encounter with the clear light fades, the journey continues into what is often described as the visionary Bardo, where the mind, now freed from the immediate constraints of the physical body, begins to project its own impressions. It is here that one may experience a cascade of vivid images and emotional states, hallucinatory visions that mirror both one's inner virtues and lingering attachments. In the absence of deep preparation, these projections can be confusing or sorrowful, marking the opportunity lost for liberation in that critical moment of pure awareness. Thus, the Bardos serve as both a mirror and a gateway. They reflect the mental and karmic patterns cultivated during life, and simultaneously offer a rare chance to break free from the endless cycle of rebirth. By understanding and preparing for this process through meditation, mindfulness, and compassion in life, practitioners learn to face the inevitability of death with equanimity and even joy, knowing that every ending is merely a transitional pause before a new beginning. Tibetan spirituality is a vibrant fusion of ancient indigenous practices and Buddhist teachings that evolved over centuries. At the heart of this synthesis lies the extraordinary integration of the Bon tradition, Tibet's ancient, shamanistic, and animistic faith, with the profound insights of Buddhism. These spiritual traditions, once seen as separate paths, gradually intermingled to form a unique tapestry of beliefs, rituals, and philosophies that continue to influence Tibetan life and its cultural heritage today. Before Buddhism arrived, Tibet was already rich in spiritual practices that revered nature, ancestral spirits, and the mysterious forces dwelling within the landscape. The Bon tradition, with its emphasis on shamanism and natural harmony, provided a robust framework through which Tibetans understood the world around them. Mountains, rivers, and sacred sites were seen not merely as physical elements, but as living repositories of spiritual power. With the arrival of Buddhism, rather than displacing these ancient beliefs, Tibetan spiritual practitioners found ways to incorporate them into their evolving worldview. This cultural synthesis allowed Buddhist teachings to resonate deeply with the indigenous psyche, blending esoteric tantric methods, ritual practices, and a symbolic language enriched by centuries of local tradition. Central to this spiritual revolution was Padmasambhava, known as Guru Rinpoche, whose very life and teachings represent the merger of these diverse traditions. Born under miraculous circumstances and renowned as the Lotus-born, Padmasambhava entered Tibetan history amid a time of both challenge and opportunity. Invited by Tibetan kings and revered local leaders, he did more than simply introduce Buddhist doctrines. He transformed the very nature of Tibetan spirituality. Padmasambhava's contributions are manifold. Arriving in Tibet during the turbulent 8th century, he encountered a land steeped in ancient beliefs and guarded by powerful local deities. Instead of imposing unfamiliar practices, he embraced the existing Bon framework, using its language and symbols to reframe Buddhist teachings for the Tibetan context. His mastery of Tantra allowed him to function not only as a spiritual teacher, but also as a mediator between opposing forces. Enveloped in myth and legend, he is remembered for subduing malevolent spirits, transforming them into protectors of the Dharma, and thereby establishing Buddhism's foothold in a challenging cultural landscape. Through his fearless confrontation with local spirits and by reinterpreting traditional symbols, Padmasambhava paved the way for what would later be recognized as the Nyingma school, the ancient school of Tibetan Buddhism. His methods were innovative. He integrated meditative practices, ritualistic ceremonies, and vivid imagery borrowed from existing Bon practices, yet he imbued them with the transformative wisdom of Buddhist philosophy. His contributions were not solely theoretical. He founded the first Buddhist monastery, Sami Monastery, an institution that became a beacon of learning, debate, and spiritual practice. Here, both laypeople and monks could experience an amalgam of teachings that reflected the layered history of Tibet's religious life. By bridging the gap between Bon and Buddhism, Padmasambhava offered a model of spiritual integration that harmonized the practical with the mystical. His teachings emphasized that liberation is accessible not just through renunciation of worldly ties, but through a deep engagement with one's innermost nature, an understanding that resonates with Bon's reverence for natural cycles and spiritual guardians. Through his eloquent instructions and esoteric practices, he made the mysterious aspects of Buddhist Tantra both approachable and deeply rooted in Tibetan tradition, ensuring that the enlightenment he espoused would not be an abstract ideal, but a lived reality. The legacy of Padmasambhava reaches far beyond his historical era. Tibetan art, ritual, and literature continue to celebrate his life by portraying him as a figure of compassion, transformative power, and eternal wisdom. Statues, thankas, and prayer flags serve as everyday reminders of his promise that every being carries an inherent potential for awakening, a potential unlocked precisely by recognizing the sacred interplay between life, death, and rebirth. This integration of historical legacy and spiritual practice remains one of the most enduring elements of Tibetan culture. In remembering Padmasambhava's transformative contributions, we see how Tibetan spirituality evolved into a living tradition that honors the past while inviting every practitioner to embark on their personal journey toward enlightenment. His synthesis of Buddhist thought with Bon practices stands as a testament to Tibet's ability to forge unity from diversity, a cultural and spiritual legacy that continues to inspire countless seekers around the world. In Tibetan Buddhism, the journey through death and beyond does not occur as a single, abrupt event. Instead, it unfolds through a sequence of profound transitional states, or bardos, that illuminate the soul's passage from one existence to the next. By delving into each of these states, we learn not only about death, but also about the transformational power inherent in the cycle of life and rebirth. The first stage, the Chikai Bardo, marks the precise moment of death and the encounter with the clear light. At this point, as the body releases its grip on the physical world, the soul experiences an ephemeral, ineffable luminosity. Imagine a sudden burst of radiant clarity in which everything familiar vanishes, revealing the underlying nature of pure awareness. This clear light is not simply a mystical glow, but represents the essence of the mind stripped of all worldly identity. For those who have cultivated deep meditative insight, this encounter offers a rare opportunity. Recognizing this brilliance can lead directly to liberation. However, if the soul is unprepared, the experience might pass by as a fleeting vision, a moment that, while potent, slips beyond grasp in the rush of transition. Following the initial encounter in the Chikai Bardo, the journey deepens into the Koniad Bardo, a visionary state in which the soul begins to see its inner landscape. During this stage, the mind, newly freed from the physical body's confines, starts projecting both beautiful and unsettling images. Here, peaceful deities and wrathful figures appear in dramatic displays, embodying the soul's own latent qualities, desires, and attachments. Ancient texts suggest these deities are not external forces, but rather projections of one's inner virtues and afflictions. Some modern interpreters compare it to a dream sequence where one's subconscious plays out a narrative, except that in the Koniad Bardo, the stakes are existential and the symbolism deeply tied to karmic residues from previous lives. As the soul confronts these manifestations, the nature of its past experiences, both noble and flawed, is laid bare. For some, this encounter can be transformative, offering lessons on the impermanence of identity and the consequences of one's actions. For others, it becomes a complex tapestry of overwhelming visions that mirror the intricate interplay of hope, fear, and regret. As the visionary experience in the Koniad Bardo fades, the journey transitions into the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage of the Bardo process that guides the soul toward rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, karmic influences and the residual impressions of previous existences drive the soul toward its next life. This stage can be thought of as the final bridge between what was and what is about to become. Here, the soul navigates a labyrinth of karmic pathways, each step influenced by its accumulated deeds, thoughts, and emotions from past lifetimes. It's a process where the scenery shifts once again, a gradual and often bewildering movement toward a new identity, a new environment, and ultimately a new existence. The transitions felt during the Sidpa Bardo might be likened to stepping off an old, well-worn path onto a road that is both uncertain and full of promise. The choices made in previous chapters of life have set the stage for this decision. Each action, each thought, reverberates forward. Though some view this stage as a mere continuation of a relentless cycle, others see it as an opportunity to engage with the law of karma in a definitive, albeit mysterious, way. Throughout these stages, narrative transitions remind us that the journey is not a simple, one-directional progression. Instead, it is a cyclic, reflective process where each bardo offers critical insights into the nature of existence. Real-life parallels can be drawn with moments in our daily lives when change forces us to let go of old identities and embrace new beginnings, albeit in far less mystical terms. Just as we transition from the familiarity of one day to the promise of the next with uncertainty and potential, the soul experiences a series of rebirths that reflect both continuity and transformation. It is essential to recognize that while the descriptions of the Bardos are deeply rooted in symbolism and esoteric literature, They also provide a metaphorical curriculum for those seeking to understand the nature of impermanence and personal evolution. Scholars and practitioners debate the literal versus metaphorical interpretations of these states. Some argue that the clear light and the visions of deities in the Coniad Bardo represent subjective experiences shaped by the mind's conditioning. Others maintain that these stages are concrete phenomena that, if understood and recognized, offer a direct path to enlightenment. Regardless of the interpretation, the teachings on the Bardos serve as urgent reminders that life, death, and rebirth are interconnected phases of a continuous journey. In exploring the dimensions of the Chikai, Coniad, and Sidpa Bardos, we uncover not only the mechanics of the soul's passage, but also the profound existential questions underlying every human experience. The Bardos invite us to reconsider what it means to truly live and to face the inevitable with curiosity, acceptance, and wisdom. Each Bardo, with its distinct characteristics and lessons, compels the practitioner to develop both a philosophical and practical understanding of the interplay between destiny and free will, and between the seen and unseen realms. Imagine waking up each morning with the awareness that every moment is fleeting, an opportunity that will never return. This is not a call to despair, but rather an invitation to embrace life fully, without the burden of clinging to things that naturally change. The ancient teachings found in the Tibetan Book of the Dead remind us that impermanence is an essential truth of existence. By accepting that nothing in life is permanent, we are empowered to live with greater generosity, openness, and a deeper sense of purpose. At its heart, impermanence teaches that every experience, emotion, and material possession is transient. Consider the seasons. Just as winter gives way to spring, or a flower blooms and then fades, our lives are marked by a continuous cycle of beginnings and endings. Recognizing this truth can serve as a powerful motivation to cultivate detachment, not by running away from responsibility or joy, but by understanding that our attachments to the material world often cause suffering. When we learn to let go, we create space for personal growth and deeper emotional resilience. For example, imagine a person who has invested decades in accumulating wealth or social status. Over time, however, unexpected changes such as economic downturns, health challenges, or the loss of loved ones can easily upend their well-laid plans. An individual deeply anchored in the material world may feel shaken, experiencing fear and regret when life does not conform to their expectations. On the other hand, someone who accepts impermanence as a natural law may experience such events as opportunities to reassess priorities and reinvent themselves. This acceptance does not mean indifference. Rather, it fosters a flexible state of mind that sees challenges as catalysts for transformation rather than disasters to be avoided at all costs. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Mindfulness practices and cognitive behavioral techniques encourage individuals to observe their thoughts and emotions without judgment. In this way, people learn to detach from the compulsive need to cling to specific outcomes or possessions. When we allow ourselves to experience life moment by moment, we can respond to loss or failure not with despair, but with curiosity and resilience. This perspective not only alleviates anxiety, but also ignites a sense of liberation that opens the door to creative living. Another significant practical implication of these teachings is the cultivation of gratitude and presence. When we acknowledge that every moment is unique and that external conditions are inherently unstable, we become more appreciative of what we have now. This appreciation nurtures a quiet joy grounded in the present rather than in the promise of future acquisitions or achievements. As a result, our relationships deepen and our capacity for compassion expands. By living with detachment, we also become less reactive to the vicissitudes of life. Instead of being dragged down by disappointment or clinging desperately to success, we find ourselves better equipped to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs. Detachment from the material world, however, is not about renouncing the pleasures of life or becoming aloof. It is about understanding that the true source of happiness lies within, rather than in external objects or circumstances. In today's fast-paced, consumer-driven society, this message can seem revolutionary. Modern existential questions often center on the search for meaning in a world that appears to be increasingly chaotic. Amid the noise of social media, relentless work pressures, and a constant barrage of information, it is easy to be swept away by the pursuit of material success. Yet, the ancient wisdom of Tibetan teachings invites a pause, a reminder to look inward and connect with a deeper sense of self. Contemporary spiritual practices, including mindfulness meditation, yoga, and even certain forms of psychotherapy, draw on these timeless principles. When people anchor themselves in the present moment and practice non-attachment, they report increased well-being, enhanced creativity, and a greater sense of purpose. In meditation, for instance, practitioners learn to observe their thoughts and feelings as impermanent phenomena. This practice cultivates a spacious awareness, allowing them to witness life's changes without becoming overwhelmed by them. Such practices not only strengthen mental resilience, but also foster a spiritual openness that many describe as a glimpse of enlightenment, a state in which one experiences the unity of all things beyond the dualistic nature of existence. Moreover, the application of these teachings in everyday settings has ripple effects on our communities and workplaces. When leaders and colleagues adopt an attitude of flexible detachment, they create environments that are less prone to conflict and more open to collaboration. In relationships, accepting that each person is also on their own journey of impermanence can lead to greater empathy and less judgment. By letting go of rigid expectations, we allow space for genuine connection and growth. In another practical sense, embracing impermanence invites us to evaluate how we spend our time and energy. With the understanding that all experiences are transient, we become more mindful about investing in what truly matters, be it nurturing intimate relationships, pursuing creative passions, or engaging in acts of kindness. The realization that nothing is fixed yearns us to live each day fully, appreciating its inherent beauty and uniqueness. Detachment, then, is not about disconnection, but about discerning what truly nourishes our inner life. Modern-day practices, inspired by these ancient teachings, are evident in the increasing popularity of retreats, silent meditation sessions, and community discussions on mindfulness. People are actively seeking strategies to counteract the stress and fragmentation of modern existence. They find solace in practices that discourage compulsive consumption and instead promote a reflective approach to life, one that honors both the fleeting and the eternal. The practical implications of these teachings extend further into the realm of mental health. In a world dealing with unprecedented levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout, the acceptance of impermanence provides a robust framework for coping. It reassures us that our current state is not our identity, but a moment in an ever-changing continuum. This perspective can diminish the perceived finality of despair and nurture a hopeful vision that every ending is but a beginning in disguise. To summarize, the ancient teachings found in the Tibetan Book of the Dead offer powerful practical lessons for contemporary life. They teach us that by embracing the impermanent nature of existence and cultivating a healthy detachment from the material world, we unlock the potential for greater personal growth, resilience, and eventually, a deeper form of enlightenment. Whether it's through mindfulness practices, reflective meditation, or simply fostering gratitude in our daily routines, these principles help us navigate modern existential questions and bring a sense of balance and meaning to an increasingly complex world. As we move forward, let this wisdom serve as a reminder that life is not a static accumulation of possessions or achievements, but an ongoing journey, a continuous dance between holding on and letting go, between knowing and experiencing. In this delicate balance lies the secret to a fulfilled, vibrant, and resilient life. Throughout its long history, the Tibetan Book of the Dead has inspired not only deep devotion among practitioners, but also pointed debates within both scholarly and spiritual communities. Some modern observers argue that its vivid descriptions of post-death experiences are best interpreted as poetic metaphors or psychological projections, rather than literal accounts of what transpires beyond death. Critics point out that many of its teachings rely on ancient symbolism and esoteric language that can be understood in multiple ways. These concerns have led some contemporary scholars to question whether the text should be taken at face value or seen as serving more as an allegory for the impermanence and fluidity of the human mind. Supporters of the traditional perspective, however, maintain that the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers a practical spiritual roadmap, a guide designed through centuries of practice and lived experience. They argue that the detailed observations of the mind's transition at death and the subsequent experiences in the intermediate states carry an authenticity that transcends simple metaphor. Historical accounts and the continued reverence for these teachings within Tibetan culture are cited as evidence that these experiences are not mere myth, but are indicative of a profound spiritual reality experienced by the adept. Balanced viewpoints also emerge from modern interpretations. Some scholars suggest that whether one views the text as a literal manual for navigating the afterlife or as a symbolic treatise on the nature of consciousness, its value lies in its capacity to transform how we view life and death. For instance, researchers in the fields of psychology and comparative religion have drawn insightful parallels between the descriptions of the clear light and modern theories of neural dissolution in near-death experiences. While these intersections are not conclusive proof of literal truth, they do open up compelling avenues for understanding ancient wisdom through contemporary lenses. Critiques also raise the point that the variability in interpretations across different translations and commentaries makes it challenging to pin down a single definitive meaning. This diversity of thought, however, can be seen as a strength rather than a weakness. The multiplicity of interpretations invites deeper investigation and encourages practitioners and scholars alike to reflect on their personal experiences, biases, and the cultural context in which one understands the mysteries of death and rebirth. By weighing these objections against the extensive traditional evidence, historical records, oral transmission, and the transformative practices validated by centuries of Tibetan spiritual efforts, we come to appreciate the Tibetan Book of the Dead as a layered text. It is a work that not only communicates practical instruction for the post-mortem journey, but also offers timeless metaphors that resonate with the human quest for meaning. Its enduring influence in both spiritual practice and modern academic discourse suggests that while skepticism is a natural and healthy part of engaging with any ancient text, the underlying wisdom continues to provoke reflection and inspire those who seek to understand the deeper truths of existence. In this balanced discussion, it becomes clear that the controversies surrounding the Tibetan Book of the Dead are not necessarily obstacles to its significance. Rather, they serve as invitations to explore its teachings more deeply, to question, to debate, and ultimately, to enrich one's own understanding of life, death, and the possibility of liberation through genuine inner insight. Imagine a world where every ending sparks a new beginning, a concept as timeless as the cycle of day and night. The ancient teachings of the Tibetan Book of the Dead offer a profound perspective on life, death, and rebirth that resonates even amid today's rapidly changing world. In modern society, we find echoes of these spiritual cycles in everything from the rise and fall of technologies to our ongoing quest for mental clarity and holistic health. Consider the realm of technology. Just as the Tibetan wisdom describes death not as a final cessation, but as a transformative passage into another state of being, so too do we see digital systems undergoing cycles of shutdown, reboot, and update. Think about our smartphones and computers. Updates may render an old operating system obsolete, yet they often pave the way for a more refined version. This cycle of obsolescence and renewal mirrors the ancient Bardos states, transitional phases that, when navigated with understanding and acceptance, lead to transformation. In both cases, letting go of what was once familiar is essential for embracing what is yet to come. Science, particularly in the fields of neuroscience and psychology, has begun to map the intricacies of consciousness in ways that resonate with these ancient teachings. Research into near-death experiences, for instance, reveals narratives of bright, unifying light and profound inner peace. These findings parallel the descriptions of the clear light encountered in the Chikai Bardo. Modern studies suggest that when the brain is stripped of its habitual functions, it may access a state of pure awareness, echoing the timeless metaphors of liberation and revelation found in Tibetan texts. This not only deepens our understanding of the human mind, but also offers hope that ancient practices aimed at transcending limited views of existence have a neurobiological basis. Today's cultural discussions about mental health and holistic well-being further illustrate the relevance of these age-old insights. In an era marked by rapid change and constant digital distraction, many are turning to meditation and mindfulness as antidotes to stress and burnout. The principles of non-attachment and impermanence teach us that clinging to past identities or material possessions can lead to suffering. Instead, embracing change, much like the soul navigating the Bardos, can lead to deeper inner peace and resilience. Modern movements emphasize that true well-being involves accepting life's transient nature, allowing us to respond to challenges with clarity and compassion. In the context of modern life, the ancient lessons of impermanence and transformation remind us that both technology and human existence are in constant flux. They encourage us to let go of outdated ideas and embrace new possibilities, whether through innovative digital solutions, breakthroughs in science, or shifts in cultural paradigms. Like the clear light that beckons the soul toward awakening in Tibetan tradition, our modern search for meaning and balance can illuminate paths to personal enlightenment and collective progress. By integrating these timeless insights into modern dilemmas, we enrich our understanding of both the self and the world around us. Whether through practices that foster mental tranquility or through systems that honor the cyclical nature of change, the dialogue between ancient wisdom and contemporary life encourages us to meet the future with hope, resilience, and a deep sense of interconnectedness. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the timeless wisdom of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. If you enjoyed exploring these deep topics with me, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. I'd love to hear your thoughts or any questions you might have, so please drop them in the comments below. Stay tuned for our next video, where we'll dive even deeper into how ancient wisdom can intersect with modern life in surprising and transformative ways. Until then, keep reflecting, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.